When does MPD start showing up? When is it recognizable in children?
So showing up is kind of it's a challenging it's a challenging thing to answer, but I'm glad that you're asking it that way because it's important. So when we're looking at a developmental process, and we have to factor in that there's different stages of development that matter as far as presentation and expression, right? So if we're looking at diagnostic manuals, what they say is personality disorders are these enduring, pervasive patterns of thinking, feeling, perceiving, behaving that start to manifest at least as early as adolescence. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't manifest earlier than adolescence, but what it's saying is if we're going to call this a personality disorder rather than a behavioral disorder or an impulse control disorder or any other kind of disorder, that there has to be an enduring and pervasive pattern of this that can be traced back at least to adolescence or early adulthood. That doesn't mean that it's not present or developing in childhood. And so, again, don't shoot the messenger, but there's literature on this, that professionals who treat personality disorders in children. And so I can give you some references to the books that have been written about personality disorders in children. Okay, we're talking about children where we're seeing traits of these disorders where there's not necessarily the full-blown disorder, and a 2-year-old is not going to look the same as a 30-year-old, but they have these types of traits. There's a lack of empathy. There's an inability to collaborate with peers, even like as toddlers. There's an inability to get along with their siblings. The tantrums are not age appropriate. They're actually manipulative tantrums. Anytime there's a no or there's a boundary, there's a tantrum to get the parent to give in. It's disproportionate behavior to the age. And it's not the same thing as like the terrible twos or the typical distress that we see in children who are learning to find their way in the world, right? It's also not the same as that primary narcissism that people claim we all have, where kids are just self-centered because they don't have the wiring to be altruistic and think outside themselves. That's not the narcissism we're talking about here. We're talking about indicators of a lack of empathy, sometimes even a callousness, sometimes a hostility, and an inability to be fair or equal in play with peers at school. So you can see these traits manifesting as early as age 2 in children. And you can actually see temperamental differences in a lack of empathy in hospitals right after birth.
Really?
Where you see children not responding to environmental stimuli because they're indifferent to the cries of the other babies in the hospital. They're indifferent to nurturing. They're indifferent to, and again, this isn't to pathologize and talk badly about kids. We're just talking about differences in temperament. At these biological underpinnings. Some children are highly resilient to stress. Some children are immune to stress because they don't have pro-social emotions that other children have. And this is, again, I'm just literally spouting research that I can verify. It's not, these ideas aren't coming from the laboratory of my own mind. This is stuff that's been studied and replicated, and it's been demonstrated.